The first thing I noticed was the light. Cold, white, too clean for a celebration. It bounced off the marble floor and cut straight into my eyes as I stepped into the ballroom, clutching my coat like I might still turn around and leave. The air smelled like citrus polish and expensive perfume. Somewhere behind the bar, glasses clinked. Laughter rose and fell in waves, table cards everywhere, gold lettering, thick paper. I found mine fast. Table 17. Not near the stage, not near the family banner with my last name printed too large. Table 17 sat close to the service door where waiters slipped in and out with trays and the dishwasher hummed like a low warning. That was the first sting. Then I saw them. My parents at the head table front and center, angled perfectly toward the podium. My brother Ryan stood beside them, already holding court, already smiling like the night had been built for him alone. Because it had. Ryan Carter's promotion party, Ryan Carter's night. Ryan Carter's proof that the family had chosen correctly. I slid into my chair. The fabric was stiff, unforgiving. Someone had pushed the table too close to the wall, and my elbow brushed cold plaster as I sat. Across from me, strangers, co-workers of his, people who knew his title, his credentials, his version of the story. No one knew mine. The music dipped. A microphone clicked. Ryan stepped up. Tall, relaxed. That practiced confidence you only get when you've never had to doubt yourself. He lifted his glass and smiled, slow and deliberate eyes sweeping the room. Then they landed on me. "Let's make a toast," he said, "to real careers, to stability, to not wasting years chasing ideas." A pause. A smirk. Some of us grow up. Laughter. Sharp. Immediate. It rolled through the room like permission. I felt my jaw tighten. That was the first snap. Quiet. Internal. Like a hairline fracture. Before I go any further, if you've ever had family treat you like you don't matter, like you're an embarrassment they tolerate instead of someone they believe in, take a second. Hit like. Subscribe. Because what happens tonight doesn't start loud. It starts exactly like this. Small, public, and cruel. Ryan continued, "You know Mom and Dad always told us dreams are nice, but bills are real." He chuckled, shaking his head. "I'm grateful they taught me that early." My mother laughed too loudly, the kind of laugh meant to be heard. My father clapped first, hard, proud. He leaned toward the man beside him and said, "That's my son." I stared at the condensation sliding down my water glass. I didn't drink. I didn't blink. At my side a hand reached for mine. My grandmother Margaret, small, steady, her fingers were warm, firm, anchoring. "Hold still," she whispered. "Don't give them anything." Ryan went on about leadership, about sacrifice, about discipline. Every sentence carried a blade. Every joke had a direction. "And hey," he added, eyes flicking back to me, "not everyone's built for responsibility. Some people prefer flexibility." More laughter. This time someone behind me snorted. That was the second snap. My chest tightened, not from sadness, but from something hotter, something sharper. I shifted in my seat. My sleeve caught on the edge of the table fabric, tugging like it wanted to tear. I let it. Across the room, my mother leaned toward my father, whispering. She glanced back at me once, just once. Her eyes were cool, assessing, not concerned, embarrassed. The applause swelled as Ryan finished soaking it in. He stepped down, shaking hands, receiving back slaps and compliments like currency. He passed my table on the way to the bar, paused. "Hey," he said low enough for only me to hear. "Didn't think you'd actually show." I looked up at him. "I was invited," I said. He smiled wider. "Sure. Just try not to make it weird, okay?" Then he walked off. That was the third snap. Behind the wall, the dishwasher slammed shut. Metal on metal, over and over. A rhythm. I breathed in through my nose, counted to 4, out through my mouth. Across the room, my mother stood and clinked her fork against a glass. "Can we all just appreciate how far Ryan has come," she said. "The years of effort, the commitment. We're so proud." Her gaze drifted, landed on me again. "You know," she added, smiling thinly, "not everyone finds their path at the same time." Gaslight. Soft. polite. My father nodded. Some people need more guidance. That was the fourth snap. My phone vibrated against my thigh. Once. I didn't look. Ryan laughed loudly at something a guest said. Someone handed him a card. Someone else asked for a photo. The room revolved around him like gravity had chosen its center. My phone vibrated again. Twice. I glanced down. A single line on the screen. 5 minutes. I locked it. My grandmother noticed. Her grip tightened. Whatever's coming, she murmured. You didn't steal it. The dishwasher roared. A waiter brushed past, muttering an apology I didn't hear. At the head table, my mother's smile never wavered. She raised her glass again, this time toward Ryan, then toward the room. Family, she said. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Her eyes met mine, and she finished it. Even when some people forget where they belong. I learned early what silence costs. It started years before this room, before the lights, before Ryan's voice learned how to fill space like it belonged there. The first time I asked for help, I didn't even ask for much. We were in the kitchen. Sunday afternoon, sunlight slanting through the blinds. My father stood at the counter scrolling his phone. My mother dried a plate, slow, methodical. I just need a small amount, I said. Enough to test the prototype. I already built most of it. My father didn't look up. My mother did. Her mouth tightened first. Then she laughed. A prototype of what she asked. Data modeling, I said. Prediction software. There's interest, Ryan snorted from the table. Coffee mug in hand. You mean that app thing? It's not an app, I said. That's worse, he replied. Apps at least make money. My father finally looked at me then. Not curious, not concerned, measured. Lena, he said, you're smart, but this isn't practical. You need stability. My mother nodded, already done with the conversation. You're a woman. You don't need to struggle like this. That sentence landed heavier than the others. I stood there holding my laptop bag like it might shield me. How much, my father asked, already impatient. 10,000, I said. Just to run initial tests. I'll pay it back. Ryan laughed outright. 10,000 for a hobby, he said. That's cute. That was the first time I realized something. They weren't listening. They were deciding. The check for Ryan's prep courses came a week later. Then another. Tutors, conferences, networking dinners I wasn't invited to, flights paid for, hotels booked under my parents' name. Ryan never had to ask twice. I stopped asking at all. Instead, I worked. 2 jobs, sometimes 3, night shifts, weekend contracts. I learned how to smile while being tired and how to code while my hands shook from too much coffee. I opened my first credit card because the bank wouldn't give me a loan. Then a second. Then a third. I slept on a fold-out chair in a shared office that smelled like old carpet and burnt wires. The heat broke one winter, and no one fixed it for weeks. I kept my coat on and typed anyway. Every time I went home, they reminded me, this phase will pass. Ryan's doing real work. You don't want to end up alone. Each sentence stacked, quiet, heavy. At dinner, Ryan talked about mentors, about introductions, about how lucky he was to have parents who believed in him. My mother would beam. You see, she'd say, turning to me, that's how success looks. I nodded, always nodded. That was the second time something in me hardened. The only person who didn't treat me like a disappointment was my grandmother, Margaret. She lived in a small house with creaking floors and mismatched furniture. She didn't ask about titles. She asked if I was eating enough. One night I showed her the code, sat beside her on the couch, laptop balanced between us. She didn't understand it. She didn't pretend to. But she watched my face as I explained. At the end, she stood up, walked to her bedroom, and came back with an envelope. Inside was a check. $5,000. That's all I can give, she said. And it's not an investment. I tried to hand it back. She closed my fingers around it. Don't prove anything to them, she said. Prove it to yourself. That was the third snap. Quiet. Permanent. I used that money to keep the servers running for 2 more months. 2 months turned into 6. 6 turned into traction. Traction turned into meetings I didn't tell my family about, not because I was hiding, because they'd already told me what they thought. Back in the ballroom, Ryan's voice cut through the noise again. I blinked. Present. He was holding a group near the stage now, gesturing wide, confident. And when you commit early, he said you don't waste years chasing dead ends. Someone laughed. He continued, some people just aren't built for pressure. A pause. I mean, not everyone needs ambition. Someone's got to settle. I felt my throat tighten. That was the fourth snap. My mother leaned toward one of his guests. She's always been creative, she said, like it was a condition. My father nodded. Different priorities. The words slid over me like cold water. I remembered nights sleeping in my car between contracts, showers at gyms, pretending it was temporary because admitting otherwise felt dangerous. I remembered the first real client, the first invoice paid, the first time I didn't check my balance before buying groceries. I told no one, because success doesn't need witnesses. Ryan raised his glass again. To choosing the smart path, he said. Applause. I sat still, hands folded, breathing even. My phone vibrated once more against my leg. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. Across the room, my mother caught my eye. Her expression softened, just enough to sting. You could still change, she mouthed. That was the fifth snap, and the last. I looked away. The years they dismissed me weren't gone. They were standing up, one by one, waiting. The vibration started low. Not loud, not urgent, just enough to be felt. Once. I didn't move. Ryan was still talking. His circle had grown thicker now, men in tailored suits, women holding champagne like accessories. They leaned in when he spoke, nodded at the right moments, laughed before the punchline landed. The room pulsed with sound, music under everything, bass soft but constant, glass against glass, shoes scuffing marble. My phone vibrated again, twice. I shifted slightly, letting it rest against my palm under the table. The screen lit up. Almost there. No name, just the message. I locked it and slid the phone back against my thigh. Across from me, a couple I didn't know whispered to each other. One of them glanced at my table card. Family? She asked politely. I nodded once. Must be nice, she said, already turning back to the room. I didn't correct her. The lights dimmed for a moment as a server crossed in front of the fixtures tray lifted high. For half a second, the room looked softer, almost forgiving. Then the lights snapped back to full brightness. Cold again. My grandmother leaned closer. You okay? I nodded. Fine. She studied my face longer than anyone else ever had. You're very still, she said. I learned? I replied. The phone vibrated again, this time longer. I glanced down. 10 minutes. That was it. No emojis, no congratulations, no noise, just time. I exhaled slowly and slipped the phone into my clutch. Closed it, set it at my feet. Across the room, my mother laughed at something Ryan said and touched his arm proud. My father stood behind him, hands on his shoulders like he was presenting something valuable. See, my mother said loudly to no one in particular. Hard work pays off. Ryan lifted his glass again. You know what really matters, he said. Consistency. Showing up. Not flitting from one idea to another. I felt my jaw tighten. That was the sixth snap. A shadow crossed the table. I looked up. She was tall, mid-40s maybe, dark blazer. No jewelry except a watch that looked expensive without trying. She smiled small and controlled. Lena Carter, she asked. I blinked once. Yes. She extended a hand. Naomi Brooks. Signal Tech Review. My grandmother's eyebrows lifted. Naomi leaned in, slightly lowering her voice. Didn't expect to see you here. Family event, I said. She smiled again. This one's sharper. Of course it is. She didn't ask to sit. She just did. Across the room, Ryan launched into another story, miming something with his hands. The crowd laughed on cue. Naomi followed my gaze, then looked back at me. Congratulations, she said quietly. I raised an eyebrow. On what? She tilted her head. You don't like tempting fate, do you? I didn't answer. She glanced at her watch, then around the room, then back to me. Sources are solid, she said. We double-checked. Good, I replied. My grandmother watched us, silent, alert. Naomi smiled toward her. You must be very proud. Margaret didn't hesitate. I am. Naomi nodded, satisfied. My phone vibrated again inside the clutch. Once, then again. I didn't reach for it. Naomi leaned back in her chair. You always were calm, she said. Panels, interviews, chaos around you, and you just waited. I don't rush, I said. That's why this works, she replied. Across the room, my mother shot me a look. A brief flicker of annoyance. She leaned toward my father and whispered something. He glanced back, frowned slightly, then returned his attention to Ryan. They didn't see Naomi. They didn't hear anything. The room was too busy celebrating the wrong thing. Naomi checked her phone now. Her screen glowed, reflecting in her glasses. 5 minutes, she said. There it was again. Time tightening. A waiter brushed past our table, nearly bumping my chair. Plates clinked. Someone dropped a fork. Laughter spiked, then settled. The music shifted to something louder, more triumphant. Ryan raised his voice to compete with it. I'm just saying success doesn't come from hiding behind a screen. The crowd laughed. I felt my grandmother's hand find my knee. A small squeeze. Whatever happens, she whispered, remember who you were before they noticed. Naomi stood. I'm going to move closer to the exit, she said. Signal's better. She paused, looked down at me. When it hits, she added, this room will change. I nodded. I know. She walked away, weaving through the crowd with practiced ease. My phone vibrated again, longer this time. I pulled it out. Servers ready. Traffic spike expected. Stand by. I locked the screen and turned the phone face down on the table. That felt like control. Across the room, Ryan finished another story. Applause followed. Someone handed him a drink he hadn't asked for. My mother dabbed her lips with a napkin, smiling wide. This is his night, she said to the woman beside her. He deserves it. I watched her say it. The words didn't hurt anymore. They were just information. The lights seemed brighter now. Or maybe my eyes had adjusted. Every sound sharpened. The scrape of a chair leg, the click of a camera, the low hum of the HVAC overhead. The phone stayed still. I stayed still. The room spun around me, loud and careless. And for the first time all night, I felt something close to calm. I reached down, picked up my clutch, and placed it neatly on the chair beside me. Phone inside, screen dark, face down, waiting. It didn't start loud. It never does. One phone chimed near the bar. A soft, unfamiliar sound swallowed by the music. No one reacted. Then another. 2 tables over. Then 3 more. A ripple. Not sound, yet movement. Heads tilting down, hands reaching into jackets and clutches, screens lighting faces from below, turning smiles into masks. The DJ kept playing, for 5 seconds too long. Then the room noticed. The bass dropped out mid-beat. A needle skid of silence replaced it. The lights didn't dim, didn't soften. They stayed bright, unforgiving, exposing everything. My phone buzzed once inside the clutch. I didn't touch it. Across the room, Ryan was mid-laugh, mouth open, glass raised. Someone beside him froze, staring at their screen. What the hell, the man murmured. Ryan followed his gaze, pulled out his phone. His smile slipped, not slowly, not dramatically. It fell off his face like it had never belonged there. At the head table, my father squinted at his screen. He turned it sideways, then back. Like changing the angle might change the words. My mother leaned in, snatched it from his hand. Her fingers trembled. No, she whispered. Too loud. That word traveled. No. Another phone chimed. Then another. The sound multiplied, overlapping, sharp and insistent. A storm of notifications crashing into the room all at once. People stood up. Chairs scraped. Glasses tipped. Someone laughed, high-pitched and nervous. Near the entrance, Naomi Brooks stepped forward. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Ladies and gentlemen, she said calmly, holding up her phone. Signal Tech Review just published its special report. The room leaned toward her as one body. Lena Carter, Naomi continued, eyes finding me without hesitation, is the founder and CEO of Atlas Veil Technologies. A breathless pause. The company closed its latest valuation this afternoon. Ryan took a step toward her. This isn't funny, he said. Naomi didn't look at him. Valuation $8.9 billion. The room broke. Gasps. Swearing. A chair tipped over somewhere to my left. Someone dropped a glass and it shattered sharp and bright against the marble. Phones rose higher, screens flickered. Names were read aloud, half pronounced, half believed. That's her. Table 17. No way. My mother swayed. My father reached for her arm. Mist reached again. Ryan stood frozen. Phone slack in his hand. Eyes locked on me like he was waiting for a punchline that never came. Naomi went on, unhurried. Atlas Veil's predictive infrastructure now supports over 90 million active users globally. Entertainment, finance, logistics, healthcare. She glanced at her screen once. Ms. Carter retains majority ownership. No outside control. A man in a tailored suit broke from the crowd and headed toward me. Then another. Then 3 more. Cards appeared like tricks. White, cream, black. My fund. Quick question. We should talk tonight. Security tried to move, failed. Ryan finally found his voice. This is fake, he said loudly. This has to be fake. My father shook his head slowly, still staring at his screen. The numbers, he muttered. They're real. My mother's face drained of color. Lena, she said. You didn't... I stood. The room quieted again. Not because I demanded it, because they wanted to hear. I didn't step toward the stage. I didn't need a microphone. I spoke evenly. I didn't hide anything I said. Ryan flinched. I built a company, I continued. Over 7 years. I looked at my parents, not accusing, not pleading, just direct. I asked for help once. My mother shook her head. We didn't know. You laughed, I said. The word landed clean. No heat, no volume. You told me to be realistic. A murmur rippled through the crowd. My father opened his mouth, closed it. I worked nights, I went on. I slept on office floors. I paid for servers with credit cards. Ryan scoffed. So what I worked too. I turned to him. You were funded. Silence. I wasn't, I said. So I stopped explaining. Naomi watched from the side, recording quietly. I didn't come here to embarrass anyone, I said. I came because I was invited. My mother took a step toward me. We're proud of you, she said too fast. Too late. I nodded once. I know. She blinked. You do? Yes, I said, because you're saying it now. That landed harder than anything else. Ryan stepped forward. His face flushed. You let me make a fool of myself. I met his eyes. You did that on your own. A man near the bar laughed. Cut it off quickly when Ryan turned. You could have told us, my father said. I tried, I replied. I let the words hang. The crowd pressed closer. Questions overlapped. Deals were half offered. Names were thrown like lifelines. Healthcare AI board seat, global expansion. My grandmother stood beside me now. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Ryan looked around, panic creeping in where confidence had lived. This was my night, he said. I nodded. It was. My mother's voice cracked. Lena, please. I held her gaze. I'm done explaining. The phones kept flashing, screens refreshed, headlines updated in real time. Tech founder revealed at private event. Family celebration turns silent. Power shift. Ryan's shoulders slumped. The crowd no longer looked at him. Not once. I felt it then. The shift. Not triumph. Relief. I didn't hide, I said quietly. I just stopped explaining. No one spoke after that. They didn't need to. The truth had already finished the conversation. The silence didn't come immediately. It crept in later, after the lights, after the doors, after the city swallowed the noise of that room and spit it back out as headlines. That night my phone didn't stop vibrating. Calls first, one after another, missed. Voicemail stacking like evidence. Then messages. My mother, my father, Ryan, aunts I hadn't heard from in years, cousins who never learned my middle name, numbers I didn't recognize but somehow knew. Can we talk? This got out of hand. Family should stay private. You didn't have to do that. We're proud of you. Please call me back. Pride arrived right on time. I didn't answer. I rode home in the back seat, city lights streaking across the window like they couldn't keep up. My grandmother sat beside me, hands folded in her lap, posture calm. The driver didn't speak. The engine hummed low and steady. I watched the hotel disappear in the mirror. Ryan stood outside when we left. I saw him for half a second, just long enough to register the shape of someone who had lost the room and didn't know where to stand anymore. My phone buzzed again. I turned it face down. At my apartment, the quiet hit harder than the noise ever had. No music, no applause, no laughter sharpened with envy, just air. I kicked off my shoes, set my bag down, stood by the window without turning on the lights. The city looked the same as it always did, tall, bright, indifferent. My phone lit up the counter. Another call. I didn't need to see the name. Margaret poured herself tea. The sound of water against porcelain was gentle, grounding. "They're scared," she said, like it was an observation about the weather. "I know. They didn't lose you tonight," she continued. "They lost control." That landed. I picked up my phone, opened the messages, scrolled once, twice. My mother's name filled the screen. "We didn't know. You never said it was this big. Come home. We need to talk like a family." I felt nothing. No anger, no triumph, just distance. Margaret sat across from me now. "You don't owe them closure," she said. "You already paid for this lesson." I nodded. Ryan's message came next. "You humiliated me. You let them laugh. This could have been handled privately." I deleted it. My father's was longer. "Careful, strategic. This situation is being misunderstood. Your mother is devastated. We should get ahead of the narrative." I laughed once. Short, dry. "That's still all he sees," I said. Margaret smiled faintly. "He always did." I opened my contacts. One by one, I blocked them. Mother, father, Ryan. The screen went quiet between each tap. Clean, final. I left 2 numbers unblocked. Margaret, and one friend, Maya. The only person who had slept on my floor with me during the early years, who knew the version of me before headlines. Maya texted 5 minutes later. Saw the news. "You okay?" I replied. "I am now." The fallout didn't stay contained. It never does. By morning, articles had multiplied. Screenshots from the party circulated. Clips slowed down, zoomed in. Ryan's face. My mother's hand flying to her chest. My father frozen mid-denial. Comment sections filled with strangers saying what no one in my family ever had. She didn't owe them anything. They laughed first. This is what quiet looks like. Invitations disappeared from my parents' calendar. Old friends stopped tagging them. Their carefully curated circle thinned fast. Status doesn't like instability. Ryan lost his shortlist position within 48 hours. Officially, it was timing. Unofficially, donors don't like controversy. They didn't choose. He applied elsewhere. Smaller places, quieter ones. Rejections followed him like a shadow. Margaret told me gently. I didn't ask for details. I wasn't interested in punishment, only peace. Days passed. My phone stayed quiet. That was the strangest part. Not loneliness, relief. I slept through the night, ate slowly, let my shoulders drop for the first time in years. One afternoon, I stood at the window again. Same spot, same view. The city moved below me. Cars threading through streets. Lives continuing without needing my permission. I thought about the version of myself who stood in that kitchen years ago holding a laptop bag like it was a liability. I thought about how small they'd tried to make me sound. Just a hobby. Be realistic. Grow up. I hadn't grown up. I had grown past them. Margaret joined me at the window, tea in hand. "You don't miss them," she said. "No," I replied. "I miss who I thought they could be." She nodded. "That's grief, not guilt." That felt right. Later that night, my phone buzzed once. Unknown number. I didn't open it. I turned the phone face down. Outside, the city hummed. Distant sirens. Wind through glass. No applause, no explanations. Just space. I stayed there looking out, steady and unshaken. And I understood something clearly finally. Some people only recognize your value when you stop standing there hoping they'll see it.